It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbing Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchendo. Great to have you here as usual. And before I start the show, just want to wish my mom a happy birthday. Chief Mrs. Grace Ejimone Uchendo. Happy birthday to you, of course, and I love you. But moving on with the show now, we usually start with the week that was as usual. And it's impossible to talk about that without talking about the Immigration Service and the controversy that continues to trail the interview that was called with the monies and all of that around that. But I'm not going to go in depth into it because we're going to be talking extensively about it on the show today with what the president offering jobs to those who had died and the victims who were injured, and the Minister of Internal Affairs refusing to resign, and all of the controversies that surround that. So please do stick with us for that. But moving on, of course, there's been something that's happened all over the week that's pretty bizarre. I think that's a good word to use to describe it. The PDP has accused the APC blatantly of sponsoring Boko Haram, and even some names were mentioned. And what I find strange about it is the fact that nobody has been called for interrogations or even arrested for such a blatant accusation. I mean, if these people are supposedly funding a terrorist group, why haven't they been called to question or arrested? And if the accuser is the problem, then why not call him in and ask him where he got his facts from? It's probably the most sensitive issue in the country today, and we don't want it politicized, but that's what it's beginning to look like. We need to understand why names have been mentioned and nobody's been called to book. I'm talking about the person calling the names and people's names being called. I don't know that we've had this sort of a security problem in our history since the Civil War, and to bring politics into it without anybody raising an eyebrow is a big bother to me. So hopefully in the next week we'll get answers to that. I think it was Olisa Metu, who is the spokesperson for the PDP, who made these allegations. And the names he mentioned, and he himself needs to be called in to find out where we're going to go from here so that we get some sort of a resolution to all of these things happening. Moving on now, of course, the national conference was inaugurated this week, and a lot of controversies have already trailed it. There's talks about, religion, about how a certain religion seems to have more numbers than the other. There's so many controversies, seating arrangements, and I hear that bills, they've already been paid for the first week without any sort of proper sittings holding yet. Hopefully next week they get into gear and start to deliberate on those things that they are being paid to do. I also hear the NBA has backed out for getting just one slot. Apparently they say that it's a conference that has a lot of legal undertones, and for the NBA to be given just one slot is not enough, and so they have backed out. The APC didn't send any representatives. Muslims are not very happy that they're under 50% represented. So hopefully we're able to handle all of that. And since we've already decided that we're going to hold this conference, we need to hold it properly and get something out of it. We don't need to throw money into it again, and it just becomes one of the other conferences that we've held. The Economic Summit, Nigerian Economic Summit, also held this week with a focus on education. I thought that was a brilliant idea. I was there and I did hear a few salient points that were made and certain allegations, and of course we all told ourselves some home truths. What we're going to look forward to now is what we do from here on. We need to take education more seriously. We have the lowest allocation to education, I hear, from all of the growth economies around the world. It says a lot about our attitude and how we want to move forward with education. It's the base for most of the most successful countries in the world today, and we need to take that more seriously. Finally, now a big congratulations to the current governor of Anambra State on his inauguration. Chief Willie Obiano has taken over the reins of office in Awka, so hopefully he does better than his predecessor, which is what we always hope for. And that sets the tone, of course, for 2015, where we'll have peaceful handovers again and move forward with our country. We're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll be talking unemployment in Nigeria, with sort of a focus, of course, on the Nigerian Immigration Service and their bizarre interview. We'll be right back. Come on. Welcome back. Now, on Saturday, the 15th of March, over 700,000 Nigerians wrote an employment test into the Nigerian Immigration Service across stadiums in Nigeria, and it ended up being one of the most absurd things we Nigerians have ever seen. People lost their lives, tests have now been cancelled, and the minister is in the thick of it, saying he's not going to leave his seat. But most importantly, the focus is on unemployment and why we have to go down this route for people to get 4,000 jobs. We've heard things along the lines of over 6 million people applying for the jobs. That's besides the 700,000 who actually came to write the test. But I'm not going to be discussing it alone. I have here with me Maureen Iyasele founder, JOBMAG. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. And Opeyemi Awoyemi, co-founder, Jobberman. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, I'm sure you, like every other Nigerian, saw what happened 2 Saturdays ago, and it's still very strange for us to take in. How did we get there?
There are many factors that led up to that, and it depends on the angle that you want to look at it from. From my perspective, I'd like to look at the angle of the individuals themselves that turned up. You know, when they got that call telling them that they should come to a stadium, I'm thinking to myself, what did they think? What were they expecting? You know, this is not the first time that these sort of assessments have been held by such organizations. And time after time, we experience the same thing.
People died the last time as well.
Exactly.
2008 or so.
I think so. You know, we've experienced the same thing time after time. So I'm wondering, I'm beginning to question the motives of the people that actually go. Are they looking for easy jobs? You know, because in my opinion, sometimes, you know, government-related jobs that seem to be easy jobs that, you know, you probably don't have to turn up to work on time. You can leave work early, you know, and the rudiments are not as stringent as if you were working in the private sector. So I'm asking myself, is it because, you know, a lot of people think that it's an easy job, so because of that they all turn up, you know? Yeah. So I'm questioning why, you know, young individuals will put themselves in such situations.
Yeah. Do you think that's the case? Is it a case of it being an easy, like you say, job, or are the numbers a true reflection of how bad the situation is?
Well, I see it from a different view, interestingly. For one, I think the government is a very powerful instrument. It's a very powerful entity in any country. And if the government tells you, I'm going to hire you, there's every incentive, every reason for you to believe the government is going to actually carry out what they've said they would do, compared to when you think about a private entity, say company, calling you, right? And on the other end, everybody knows that government clearly offers better job security, maybe for the same reasons that Maureen has shared. But then I wouldn't want to blame an individual who would want to go for a job that offers him better job security if he gets it. So I think the major problem with what happened is not the fact that 6 million people registered, or the fact that 500,000 people were invited for the interviews. Because of what we see on Jobberman typically, on an average, every single vacancy is applied to by at least 200 candidates. So I think the numbers look the same. What I question is why the Immigration Service would actually think of conducting a test in a stadium. In 2014, it's kind of really ridiculous. Yeah. A stadium where there are no chairs and there are no tables. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, except if there are some other things they are looking at. And, you know, looking at the monies that are collecting, a simple calculation, right, would leave the numbers at 6 billion. Yeah. So I think there's some incentive into why they wanted people to gather at stadiums, which is not adding value. It brings nothing on board in terms of actually getting the right candidates from those 500,000 people, because you cannot actually invigilate an exam at the stadium the proper way. So so that was even not a test, even if it held. It wasn't a test, you know. It's just shabang. It's something else. It's not really a test. So it shouldn't have happened in the first place. The test shouldn't have happened. That's what I think.
Yeah, I find that. I mean, we saw pictures not too long after that of I think it was a private sector bank who had also held interviews a couple of years ago, and this sort of numbers also turned up.
Yes.
So for me, it's also a reflection of, I don't know, there's obviously a problem with employment. We've heard figures, 23 million youths, or 27% of young Nigerians, you know. And that desperation, of course, says a lot about where this came from for me.
I totally agree with you. There is a problem with unemployment in Nigeria. I totally agree. But I also believe that some of the numbers that turned up, I don't think all of them were unemployed. Yeah. I think some of them actually wanted to change jobs as well.
Nothing wrong with getting a better job.
There's nothing wrong with getting a better job. I totally agree with you. But again, you know, maybe they thought it was an easier job to get. I don't know. But with regards to the unemployment situation in Nigeria, I think it's a very big problem. We have the issue of underemployment, unemployment, overemployment. You know, we have all sorts of issues that needs to be addressed. I think that a lot of young people would like to get a good job, and like you rightly said, there's nothing wrong with that. But the truth of the matter is, and the reality is, the multinationals that they would like to get into, the the bigger organizations that they would like to get into cannot employ everybody.
Yes.
You understand what I mean? So at the end of the day, I always say this time after time, that it's the SMEs at the end of the day that is going to be able to absorb everybody, you know. And new businesses as well could be started by these young individuals. But I'll also say this, not everybody, because I know that there are a lot of entrepreneurial initiatives that are going on. But the truth of the matter is, not everybody is cut out to start a business. Yes. So, so for me, one of the ways we can solve this problem is to strengthen SMEs to be able to absorb more and more young people on a daily basis. You know, I saw a recent statistic with the NBC National Bureau of Statistics, I think, and the Sweden organization, and they said that I think SMEs have employed up to about 32 million young individuals, and I think we need to encourage them to be able to employ more. So we need to fix the SME situation, support them, strengthen them, help them build structures to be able to solve this issue.
We're going to